Hello everybody, welcome back to Commonwealth Flipper. My boy's playing ball right here. You know, it's usually us resellers that are complaining about high fees. There's a little irony here. eBay is now complaining about high fees. I've also got some great stuff that sold today. Really nice sales. I think close to $1,000 worth headed out of here today. Let's go take a look. All right, I got a couple of beggars right here looking for treats, a couple of little boys playing baseball. This is a great place to work from. So if you've been watching me for a while, you know, well, of course, everybody complains about fees. I mean, I don't really complain too much about them, but I am always paying attention to them. I think we really should, because there's really only two ways you can make more money. Well, there's a few more than that, I suppose, but there's two big ways that most resellers try to make more money. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about what eBay is complaining about. There is certainly some irony here when eBay complains about fees and does things to mitigate those. I think we should do the same. So we are going to talk about that today and a few sales. I think 14 sales. So right around $1,000 headed out here today. That's the gross number with everything. So you got to subtract everything to get to your net number. But here's a Case Logic CD case. I love selling Case Logic stuff, but if you'll notice, I don't get in that bin often. They are slow sellers. And that's fine with me. I just don't pick up more than that bin can hold. If I've got a bin full, I usually don't pick up any more. And we got a little space in there now. That CD holder, 30 of them, sold for, I don't know, $22 plus shipping. I've said before that money makes money. And that's a, you know, an obvious thing to say, but a lot of times we don't think about it that way. And eBay is in the business of making money off of transactions and making money off of money. Let's face it, that's why they made this shift to the eBay process payments and all the stuff they've done. And they continue to do things on the cost side to reduce their costs to increase their profits. That, I'm going to make an argument. A lot of people aren't going to like this because it is kind of ironic, right? eBay is complaining about transaction fees with a credit card company. And it's a little ironic because we're sellers and we don't like it when they bump fees. And there's a certain level, there's a certain line where you just can't take much else and you want to look for some other solution to the problem. And eBay's done that. I'm going to not absolutely grill them over this, other than the irony of it, of course. But I'm going to apply that process that I'm sure they went through to make this decision. And I'm going to apply it to us because we have those decisions to make as well. Poncho doesn't know, but I gotta go out to the other shed and grab something. I don't want to knock your head, buddy. Are you guys gonna go out too? Nope, just Wallen. Look who followed me out here, y'all. So I am picking up a penny popple coin bank right here, and this thing sold pretty quick, which is why I'm grabbing it from out here. And this one sold for, I don't know, it's like $16.95 or something like that, $16.50. Plus shipping. $16.95 plus shipping. It sold to Eric. It says repeat buyer, so I'm assuming you're a viewer. This thing is awesome. I love selling popples. Some of them aren't huge dollar items, but I just love them because they remind me of the 80s. So a lot of you already know what's happened. This has been, you know, a couple weeks ago at this point when this came out, but I usually wait a little while. Plus I had to record a little early because I'm going on vacation. Actually, I'm going on a road trip for sourcing, and then I'm coming back. Then I'm going on vacation. By the time you see this video, we should be almost back at this point. So anyway, online marketplace eBay to drop American Express, citing fees, and says customers have other options. So eBay is moving away from American Express because their transaction fee is too high. And a lot of people just think, you know, the irony of that. That's why this thing made its circles around the Facebook groups and whatever. I've even talked about it a couple places. And it is a little ironic, right? But I don't necessarily think it's a negative thing. The irony is not lost on me. And I think that we should be doing what eBay is doing, because there really are only a couple ways that you can increase your bottom line unless you're going to do a lot more volume. And so if you want to stay at the same volume level you're at and make more money, there's only a couple ways to do it. So let's look really quick at this article. This is from a New York AP online article. Online marketplace behemoth eBay says it plans to no longer accept American Express, citing that what the company says are unacceptably high fees. And we sold a Game Boy, and this one sold for 90 bucks and 24 cents. So there must have been some kind of offer out on this one right there. And it took a little while to sell. This one's been listed a while, but finally did. We made some decent money off of it too. I want to continue the article for a minute and make a few more points I think are interesting, if not important, and then get to, of course, more sales, but get to the application of their thought process and how it should affect our thought process as well. So it's a notable blow to American Express, whose customers are often the most attractive among merchants. There's no doubt about that. There's a certain level of buyer who uses an American Express card, and they spend the most money per month on their cards. But it's not the first time merchants have voiced opposition to American Express business practices by walking away. Most notably, the warehouse chain Costco nearly a decade ago. There are so many ways I want to go with this, because there's so many interesting ways to look at this as resellers, as small business people ourselves. And we're going to do that today. I had to set the camera down and get these books because I couldn't get it with the camera, but you know, this will lead to one of my points here, which is controlling the cost side of your business. And I believe I paid a quarter. I think these were 50 cents a piece. And I said, hey, how about if I buy all of them? There was actually others that were Dr. Seuss. And so there's a huge amount, and pay a quarter a piece. So I think that's what I did on these. I'm not 100% sure. It might have been 50 cents, but I think it was a quarter, which means I paid like $7.75 if my math is right. What are you doing back here? You digging through the floor again? So at that buy cost, I'm making a bunch of money, because this sold very quickly. I was a little surprised, actually, for $54.95 full price plus shipping. I really like to pick up Berenstain Bears stuff. It does pretty well most of the time, but I was, like I said, a little surprised at this. That's a nice little profit. Did you also know that books, or most of you know this, but some of you don't, maybe if you're new, different categories, eBay charges a different fee structure. And I believe, I don't want to say something wrong, but books are right around 15%, maybe just a tick under if I remember. And most categories like 13-ish, 13 and a quarter, I think, percent. There are some that are even lower than that. I know the shoe category, they're trying to get back in. The shoe category for a really high dollar shoes, I think, is a lower fee. 8% or something. Shoe sellers, let me know out there how that structure works. Coins have a value. I don't know what that is, 13 something. Jewelry's higher, it's 15%. So fee structures make a big difference. Little tiny percentages calculated over big numbers can really cost you some bucks. Back to the article for a second here. After careful consideration, eBay has decided to no longer accept American Express globally, effective August 17th. Due to the unacceptably high fees American Express charges for processing credit card transactions, said eBay spokesperson Scott Overland in a statement. For those of you that are wondering, MasterCard, Visa, maybe Discover. I don't know much about Discover, to be honest with you. They are usually between 1.5% and 2.5% in the fees that are charged to the merchant. In this case, that would be eBay. And other cards like American Express are a full point higher for the most, 2.5 to 3.5%. And so that, I imagine, they said after careful consideration, we'll talk about it in a second. This G.I. Joe magazine 301 just happened, y'all. And this came from last year's 301. I haven't sold anything from this year's 301 yet, except for maybe over on Dibdit. So this one right here, it wasn't in the best of condition, but it was $1 from last year. And so I figured I'd buy it, and it took a long time to sell, but it did sell. $19.95 plus shipping. It is an identification guide for G.I. Joe. This is kind of cool. Now, I really do have no doubt that there was careful consideration, probably over a long period of time, maybe even some negotiation as well. Not quite sure, but you know, this kind of stuff is important not just for eBay. I expect eBay to look out for themselves. I expect every reselling platform to look out for themselves, but that's a balance. And I'm not critical when they make decisions like this, looking out for their own bottom line. Where I have had trouble in the past is when you're looking too much for your bottom line and you're sacrificing some other opportunity, whether that, and most of the time that's growth. And so in this case, and I'm talking about growth on the sales side, in this case, they're probably making a decision where that profit margin growth, a small amount, they can sacrifice a little bit of their customer base. And I do think it's a very little bit, because there's very, very few people out there who are going to say, okay, if I want something on eBay, I can't use my American Express, I have to use something else. Well, forget them, I'm done. There are people out there like that. I have no doubt, but that percentage is probably getting smaller and smaller as the years go by with all these opportunities to pay in different ways. And I think that's why this decision probably took a long time, because you don't want to cut off your buyer base if you're a selling-based platform that's working on the margins. And that's what they're doing. Let's face it, eBay's not selling their own product. Their product is their platform. Their margins are far smaller than ours. There's also a secondary part of this that I think is good. If they can cut on the cost side of things and not really give up too much on the buyer side of things, I think unfortunately they cut costs on some sides. We've talked about this before. That kind of hurts the seller. Customer service, for example. Tightening your belt is one way to make more money. If I was going to sell the same dollar amount of goods this year as I did last year, the only way I could make more money is cut down on my costs of doing business. That usually doesn't happen. I mean, shipping costs go up, fees go up, all these things happen. So the buy cost of an item has to go down, or the cost of how I ship, the supplies, or, whatever. There's all kinds of ways you can cut cost side. And so we should be thinking about doing that too. And part of that is the fee structure. If we can effectively sell on a different platform and up our sales over there and the fees may be lower, that's a consideration as well. Most of us don't do that because of what eBay just considered. How's that going to affect the buyer? And for us, most of our buyers, for me anyways, are on eBay still. But it's a changing world in reselling, and it's a competitive world. Just like they're using the competition between these other processing, credit cards, for instance. We make those determinations every day as to where we sell. Complaining usually doesn't help us too much, but finding other options does. It's those reasons where sometimes I kind of fight back maybe a little too much, to be honest, when people say, you should have paid more to yard sale or whatever. It's like, okay, maybe, and you can do that. It's totally up to you, but that's basically asking somebody to take a pay cut. And all of that stuff adds up, and at the end of the year, your profit is what your profit is. You got to subtract that, your gross number, your cost of goods is a big chunk of that. If you can reduce that by 10% by negotiating, there's no harm in that to anybody, especially when people have their own free will and can make decisions on their own. I mean, for goodness sake, it is, after all, free market economics. It's Adam Smith explained this many moons ago, right? Everybody acts in their own best interests, and we ought to do it in a very kind way, in a respectful way. But it is what it is. It's our economic system, and it's produced the greatest amount of wealth in the history of the world. So here we go. This is a Marks Johnny West. Oh, what is this? I can't remember the name of it. It's got all these accessories. I bought it down there. I'm gonna have to figure it out. It's driving me nuts. Mike Hazard. I bought all this down in Florida. It was a part of a bulk deal. I'm into this for $30, and it sold for $80. Is that what it sold for? $79.95 for that right there for shipping. If you're not going to control the cost side of your business, which is whether it's the buy side for us, there is no buy side necessarily for eBay, although you can make an argument there is in some ways, or you're going to control your cost of doing business. If you're not going to do that, then the only way to make more money is to get more money at the end of the road on the sale. You got to get more money for your sales. So that's basic business, right? That's how you make more money. Now, I think that eBay, that means that if you're taking that philosophy for us, control the costs or increase the sales, for them, that is a balance as well. Control the costs or increase the amount of sales or increase the fee structure. And none of us want that. That's been done too much. I think we're almost at a breaking point. And that's why some of these other sites have kind of sprung up. I don't think eBay wants to do that. They know that decision is far worse for them to raise fees. It's bad for morale with their sellers. It puts them at a less competitive market for other reselling platforms who are going to have lower fee structures or possibly have lower fee structures. So if I had to choose between them tightening their belt somehow on that end or passing on higher fees to us, no, thank you. Now there's another argument, which is they're making plenty of money. They shouldn't do either or something like that, whatever. But I mean, this is what businesses do, and we shouldn't expect anything less. And we should operate like that as well. Now here's the difference with us. We're small entities, and we don't have a way to join together to have our voices heard and to have kind of negotiations or to make decisions like this. We can only do it as individuals at this point. And a lot of us are making those decisions as individuals in order to guard against, build hedges around what you're doing. You know, we're making decisions to sell on, some of us, to sell on multiple platforms, to explore other options so that if it ever came time to that tipping point where fees got so much it's not worth it, then we have options. And so we're making those decisions as small entities. They have the advantage to make it as a massive entity. I'm sure American Express didn't like that. Online merchants have become increasingly combative with payment processors in recent years over the fees they charge to accept payments. This is every business. This is not just online, folks. I mean, you go to the gas station, it's like, hey, pay cash, you can pay this price. If you don't, you pay this price. So there you go. Amazon had a similar fight with Visa in the UK roughly 2 years ago, where Amazon threatened to drop Visa as a payment acceptance type over what it also called high fees. The article goes on to say that Visa and Amazon eventually came to an agreement and continued without a disruption in service, meaning that Amazon got Visa to lower their fees because Visa didn't want to lose the Amazon business. So there's the power of scale going on too. And eBay does that in our advantage as well for shipping. Well, it does it for some of us, except for those of us who opted into the other. But in that case, it's still an argument that they work in our favor because they're a big entity. And they're also the one who has the resources to fight against some of these other corporations, making it difficult for us to resell. Along with other sites, I just wish they'd do a better job of it, and it looks like they may be, so we'll see. These right here sold. I'm going to have to put the camera down and show them to you out there. I usually wouldn't pick up a lot like these books right here unless there was a bunch of them. Well, technically it wouldn't have been a lot, but you get the point. I wouldn't pick up a one-off per se and then store them till I had a bunch. One-offs are hard to sell. But because they had these two sets, there's a total of 8 here, 50 cents. I'm into this for $4. I figured it would be worth it, and it was. Sold for $24.95. Plus shipping. And I was happy to see this one come across because it went to an old buddy of mine, Tim. I used to teach at a local high school here, and he was a teacher there, terrific teacher. I just spoke to him the other day after I saw this come through. I gave him a call and said, hey, how you doing? And he is on another journey in life now. He's quit teaching, and he's taken on another venture, kind of as a teacher-ish. But he's going to get to work from home too, which is really cool. Hey, Kevin, I still consider myself one of your original fans. Yeah, here's a funny story for those of you who've been watching this show for a while. When my original channel, the Commonwealth Picker channel, got really close to 1,000 subscribers, it jumped like that. It was like, I don't know what it was, maybe 980 or something. And then all of a sudden, boom, in like a minute, it was at 1,000. And it was because he got everybody in his government class 2 years removed from my AP World History class to go subscribe. So that was really kind of you, Tim. I'll never forget that. Love supporting you and your family. I'm getting these books for my son who's becoming an avid reader. It is wild to see your kids growing up so fast, no doubt. The days are long, but the years are going fast. Keep living the dream, teaching others, and enjoying life under the tree. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you, my friend. Sold a Volcom. Is that how you pronounce that shirt? Is that a skater shirt? And paid next to nothing for it, and it sold for $24.95 plus shipping. So to me, no harm whatsoever in negotiating at the small levels because we're small business people. You know, yeah, everybody's going to act in their own best interest, but we need to do it with kindness and grace, and you know, there's nothing to feel guilty about. This is the way business is done. Don't cheat people, don't lie to people, but negotiate in your own best interest. Here's a great example right here. You see some of these bigger Squishmallows. We got some others that we got a list out there. I negotiated for, I think, like 90 some of these, and I ended up paying $1 a piece for them, knowing there'd be some really good ones in here. This one sold for 30 bucks. It's going to be not as hard to ship as you might think. They squish, you know, surprisingly. But there's some in there that I was selling over on Dibdit.com for $2, $3, $4, $5, $6. And so this is what made it worth it. It made it worth it for her, by the way, as well. Let me set this back up here for a second. I couldn't quite balance that with one hand, so I brought it out here. So we will put this in a trash bag, a big black one, and squish it way down and put it in a smaller box. And there'll be some pretty good profit in it. This is by far the biggest one. And you know what? That lady, she knew exactly what I was doing. I told her what I was doing. And I gave her my phone number. She called me back. I went out to her house yesterday and I bought 25 more of them. And she's like, hey, you know, be on. And she sold me some other stuff too that she had laying around. Matter of fact, she showed me a box that was headed to the Goodwill. And she sold me that box. And I paid decent money for it because she also told me, hey, look at that shed back there. That thing is full of my mom's stuff. And I need to sell it. But I got to get it organized first before I call you back. So I paid up a little bit. You know, this is all part of the game. None of this is anything you should be ashamed of. And I'd also just add this. eBay's not ashamed. I guarantee eBay tried to negotiate with them. I shouldn't guarantee it. And they wouldn't. And so they eventually made this decision. And so if enough businesses did that, American Express would have to adapt, more than likely, in some way, shape, or form. So it's just part of the game. And if you don't want to negotiate, don't. It's your decision. It's your choice. That's acting in your own best interest because you're not comfortable with it. You always got to balance everything and the buyer side as well. And grow an audience, it's not easy. It's not easy, but you can find a way. Bug's Life right here. And this one was pretty cool. I think I paid up a little bit, like $3-4 for it, something like that. $3, I think is what I paid. Roxanne bought it, $14.20 plus shipping. And I recognize her not just as a buyer on here, but she buys over on Dibdit.com. And now I know, hey, she buys bug stuff, which makes sense. What's your name on here? I can't remember what your name is over on Dibdit. I think you buy on Whatnot as well. And so if you sell on any of those platforms, find cool bug stuff and you might have a buyer. She says, let's see, with the Whatnot Dibdit handle Bug's Life. See, there you go. I could have read that. That fits me well. Plus, this may be one of the only Bug's Life branded items that I do not already have. Very cool. Thank you for the great videos. Saw Dot on a recent video. So, yeah, for sure. Thank you very, very much. And I think you got a cool one right there. And I appreciate the support. Now I need another plush to go over there. Which one am I going to take? I think we'll take that one over there. I was going to take the Hello Kitty. I think I'll take this one. And it'll fit a little bit better right there next to the Hug-a-Bunch and Captain. Speaking of controlling costs, my buddy Tim, who really has helped me out a lot with glass, I'm still pretty green, to be honest with you. It's got a little dust on this one now. I got to clean it before I ship it. This is an Empoli. I was so excited when I found this because it was something I learned about literally the day before. And I had sold one on a actual jar, or whatever you want to call it. And I saw this sitting there. I'm like, that is Empoli. Let's see what the other names are. Circus Tint Candy Dish Lid. And it was like $2. I'm like, oh, sweet. And I was so proud to show Tim over the years. Go check him out if you want to know a little bit about glass. And he's like, yeah, cool, dude. It doesn't sell for a whole lot, but we got 16 and change for it, plus shipping for a $2 buy. I'll take it. Now, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon, but there is one thing. You know, I've talked about it would be really, really, really good goodwill, no pun intended, for a reselling platform to do something. And I know Mercari did. They put all the selling fees on the buyer, which is cool for the seller, I suppose, but that's not quite what I'm talking about, is to reduce a fee, to have 1/4, Pup wants in, I guess I'll wait a second, to reduce fees for 1/4, even if it's a tiny reduction in fees, and not raise any fees in 1/4. I think that would go a long way in getting some goodwill between the sellers on these platforms and the platforms themselves. And I've got a bit of an announcement. It's a little premature, but something I've been working on. Very small scale compared to this kind of stuff we're talking about. But I think we're going to announce it in the next couple of weeks or so. We'll see. Now, here's an example. Something I did not negotiate on. It was at a sale. And I probably would negotiate on it if it wasn't already a good deal to make money off of. But it was at a veterans place. And they wanted $30 for it. It's a brand new TV in the box. And I was like, that's going to sell well. And it did. It sold for $200. They wanted $30 for it, and I gave it to them, no doubt. And that's kind of above and beyond your typical negotiations or your typical thing, because it was a charitable thing. But it was something I chose to do. I wouldn't tell somebody else to do that. That's something that's personal. That's just my opinion. But I wanted to talk a little bit about supplies, too. So one thing you can do to control cost is to control the cost of what it takes to ship items. I'm not talking about the shipping fees, although you can control costs there too, creatively. Reboxing, since they now have, you know, different for shipping, you know, size is a big deal sometimes, and cutting down an inch can save you $5. But I've never really advocated for people to go out and hunt for shipping supplies. If it's going to take you 2 hours to save, you know, $30, you're far better off if you're taking that time and I mean, you got $30 in your death pile in one listing. It didn't take you 20 minutes. So I've always advocated for doing things like I do with bubble wrap here. And I'm on a subscription plan with American Bubble Boy, and it's cheaper that way, and it saves me time. However, I have now started to, when I go to the dump once a week, there's a cardboard container, recycling container, and I'll go in there and I'll find those odd-shaped boxes, the ones that go with the stuff that you just can't find the right box for, as opposed to paying $1 or whatever at Walmart to get a big box. I'll find the right size box that'll save me money in shipping and save me money on the box. And it doesn't take me any more time because I'm going there every week. You give up trying to dig through the floor there, you're driving everybody nuts, including me. So since we're on this topic, give me some great ideas down below how you cut costs. I know a lot of you do it on the shipping supplies, without a doubt, so I'd love to hear those comments below. I want to mention this really quick. I got a message about it the other day. This was sent to me quite a long time ago from you wonderful folks. And they said, where's it at? And I said, well, it's in my pile to go in my eBay cave that I have not ever got finished. So I wanted to give y'all another thank you and tell you I haven't forgot about it. How cool is that record right there? So thank you. Another really nice sale. This is a little harder than these right here because this is already boxed up, ready to go. Slap a label on it. It's already packaged up inside. This one, on the other hand, they both sold for $200. This sold for $200 plus shipping. These sold for $200 plus shipping. Hey, calm down, bud. It's okay. There you go. You can't get through it. I promise. So people said they're going to start a fund to buy me some new Hey Dudes. They don't look that bad, do they? Any rate, $200. I got these super cheap from my buddy Sarah over at Renovative Home because time is money for her too. And she was cleaning out a house and they had to go quick. And they've been over here being stored for quite a long time at this point. But I think it was worth the time. I'm probably into them for 10, 15 bucks. So for $200 plus shipping. Hey, I just turned the air conditioner back on, but Reagan hadn't seen Wallen for a few days. Poncho for a few days. So she's excited to see him. You want to thank somebody? How about I thank him for you while you hug your dog? Jeremiah got a trash to cash bag down there. There's Turner too. Turner, come on in. You say your thanks or say a joke. And Stacy got a Commonwealth picker bag and a number 3 Enema Man over on CommonwealthPicker.com. Erica's gonna come in and ship whatnot. That needs to go out first.
You know your GoPro's on.
Yeah, I got you. All right, Turner.
You're gonna film him with his hair like that?
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God.
All right, Turner's got a joke, and Blueberry's mama doesn't want him to be filming his hair like this, but that's all right. What do you got?
Why are dogs terrible dancers?
Why are dogs terrible dancers? Why?
Because they have 2 left feet.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
Hey, I almost forgot. I had a Mercari order right here, which means no fees, so I took a little bit of a discount on it. I think it sold for like just under 15 bucks over there, where it was listed, I think, at 18, but I'm paying no fees, so no problem to take that offer. It's a Phillies. That's not a Phillies hat. Okay, I got one. Pretty much same color. Threw me off. It is a 47 brand, I think. Is it? I don't remember. Yeah, 47. And so that one sold over there for just under 15 bucks. No fees. I'll take it. Little List Perfectly shout out. Code Commonwealth, 15% off.